welcome to this episode of The Dig. I'm your host, Jamie, and today we're going to be talking about dealing with injuries. Before we get started, I want to remind you to go to mylittleathlete.biz/The Dig. You can get all sorts of freebies there. You can see all of the blog posts that we have, all the podcast episodes, all sorts of different topics. You can leave me a question. Probably won't be answered this season, but if I get the question a few times, if it's reoccurring, then we'll answer it in season 4. You can also sign up to be notified when season 4 comes out. And any freebies that we have, jump training, preseason guide, quizzes, all sorts of other things we've got there. So if you need any more volleyball information, go to mylittleathlete.biz/The Dig. Now, today we're going to be talking about dealing with injuries. It's a topic that I am well versed in. I can basically do a knee assessment at this point. Okay, not really, but I've had so many of them done. I feel like I can. I'm going to tell you a few stories about myself first, and then I'll tell you, tips to dealing with them. There's really not a lot you can do though, so this episode is probably going to be a little bit short. That's why I'm including a story or two about myself. I've played sports for like my whole life, which is a long time, and been hurt a lot. Basically every year I find a way to hurt myself. When I was young, I did like rodeo and stuff, and I was like really active on horseback. And then I moved into more traditional team sports. I have hurt, my lower back was one of my earlier injuries where it would send, like it would shock down my leg if I moved my leg in front of my body. Really not great for sports because you have to run. It hurt. I would have to leave games and go have my back worked on. My ankles have been sprained so many times. The ligaments aren't really functioning anymore. I've had 2 separate doctors, actually when each of them were working on my knee, just randomly assess my ankle when they were dealing with my knee and be like, what's wrong with your knee? Why aren't the ligaments holding things together here? So my ankles aren't that good. And then 2 times I've had ACL tears, which are the ligaments, 2 main ligaments in your knees. I did one playing basketball, so I retired from basketball. Then I did another one when I was playing volleyball, and I've yet to retire from volleyball. Although I keep like toying with the idea that I'm going to retire because I just keep getting hurt. And then on top of it, there's like all sorts of, minor injuries and stuff. A shoulder that's had way too much reps, all sorts of different things. So my point is, I know about injuries, not from a doctor standpoint, but I know about them from like a mental, I've been injured so many times, I'm sick of it standpoint. So we're going to talk about a few things. Before we really get into it, you need to talk to your doctor, okay? So like anything I say is just from a patient perspective, like my own experience. I'm not a doctor. I'm not committed to that much school. So all of this has to go through your doctor. If you get hurt, see a doctor. That's one of like the main things I can tell you. So a couple things. Preventing injury. Maybe I'm not the best person to talk about this since I've been injured like a bazillion times. But I will say there's really no way to prevent injury completely. Like if you're being active, there's a good chance you're going to wind up getting hurt at some point. So just know that going in, that being active puts you at risk of getting hurt. But there are things you can do to hopefully minimize the chance. You can be in good shape, and I would emphasize that not just working out and being like physically in shape, but making sure that you're targeting the alternate muscles to the ones you use in sports. So for volleyball players, if you get really big, strong quads, you really want to have big, strong hamstrings also. So when you're in the gym and you're working out, think about that. Think about, okay, well, I use, maybe the front part of my shoulder, so I really need to also be working out my back or whatever it is, whatever sport you play or season you're in or whatever. When you go to the gym, make sure that you're really doing like a full body workout and you're not neglecting things just because you think, well, I don't use them that much, so I'm not going to worry about it. You really want to be nice and balanced. A big one that people do is they love to do ab workouts, but then they neglect their back, like the lower back, mid back region, and there's your front can only be as strong as your back. So if you really want a good strong core, you have to balance it out and do back workouts also. Other thing with preventing it is flexibility. And there's a lot of research on this and like when to stretch and how much to stretch and does it really prevent anything. And a lot of people say that like it doesn't, like having flexible muscles, your muscles can still tear. And the argument to that is, gymnasts. A lot of gymnasts tear their muscles, and gymnasts are incredibly flexible. But with that being said, if you are more flexible, you are going to be able to maneuver your body when you're out of sync, like when something's gone wrong. If you're flexible, your body will be able to adapt better than if you're not flexible, and you'll be able to avoid injury that way. So while you might not be able to avoid all pulled muscles and stuff by being flexible, you may be able to keep yourself out of the situation that would cause a torn muscle or something like that. So flexibility and strength. When you get hurt, the first things that typically happen, it depends on the injury and all that, but a lot of times you go into what they call RICE, which is rest, ice, compress, and elevate. And then you need to see a doctor. So whatever it is, mostly we're talking about like traumatic injuries where everything's fine and then bam, you get hurt in some way. You'll be removed from the sport. You need to ice, lots of ice, and keep that body part above your heart. And then keep some pressure on it, whether, it was your shoulder or more likely an ankle or something. Put some pressure on it and then go see a doctor. Go see a doctor. They'll probably do an x-ray, maybe an MRI. The x-ray is really quick and simple. The MRI takes a little more time, and it's really loud, and it's like thudding at you. But it's not that bad either. You just lay there really still for a long time and try not to fall asleep and twitch. That's that. But it is really important that you go see a doctor because they're going to be able to set up your return to play stuff. So after the injury, when you want to get back into the gym, you need to follow the doctor's instructions. This is the question that I get like regarding injury more than anything else is like, when can I go back? You have to listen to your doctor. You can't say, well, I'm fine today, I'm going back, I'm going to go back and play if the doctor hasn't cleared you, because if you just return and get hurt again, well, now you've doubled the amount of time you're out. So make sure that you're really following the doctor's instructions. If the doctor gives you physical therapy, this is another one that gets neglected all the time, is people think, oh, I'm feeling a little better, I'm done with my physical therapy. Don't be done with it. Finish it. See it all the way through, and then continue. Usually physical therapy is like really like simple tasks and stuff, really simple, sometimes weighted, sometimes not, but you should keep it up and turn it into a functioning workout program for you. So yeah, you just listen to your doctor. Now we're going to get into just like briefly the mental stuff. Coming back from an injury can be incredibly hard mentally because you're seeing everybody else having a good time and playing, and basically a lot of times you can feel like everyone's moving on without you, and that can be kind of lonely. Know that you can still get better. I know it's hard, but you can improve as a player when you're on the sidelines. There's a lot to be said for watching the team play and listening to the coach and hearing what the coach is saying and seeing from the coach's perspective what is being addressed. I mean, it can make a huge difference. It really can. And a lot of players don't do that when they're out of the drill. They're just watching and having a good time. But if you really listen to what the coach is saying and try to see it as your teammates are playing, then when you do get to come back, you're actually going to be a better player for it. There are a lot of studies that show you can learn just as much by watching as by doing. So if you're willing to do a little outside watching of volleyball, like if you can watch it on TV or YouTube or something, do that. I would just encourage you to stay positive. And then when you do get back, to begin with, take it easy. Make sure that you're fully recovered, all doctors' specifications stuff. But then there will come a time, like if it's been a long time, maybe you missed an entire season or something, there will be a time when your teammates aren't taking it seriously, and when they're going slow, like maybe it's their off season or your off season or whatever, that's when you crank it up a notch and you can catch back up. It's, the amount of effort that it takes to catch back up really isn't like over 100%. It's not unattainable, and like mostly because most people don't work hard enough. Like your teammates are like, oh, we're done with season, we're going to the beach, yes. That's when you say, no, I'm gonna kick butt. I'm gonna even surpass you guys because I'm going to the gym. And it can totally be done where your drive is going to be one of the biggest indicators of your success. So yes, I do know that it sucks when you get injured and you can feel really crappy for a long time. But if you can stay positive and like flip the switch, decide, you know what, this isn't going to stop me. I'm still going to be really good. I'm going to use this experience to learn, to sit on the sidelines and take notes during drills, to sit on the sidelines and watch and critique in my own head what's going on. If you can find a way to coach younger players, maybe you're just standing around out of practice. Coaching, you learn a ton. So maybe you could, in the off season, take a night of the week to go coach kids that are, 5 years younger than you or something, or even assistant coach or whatever. You're going to learn a lot. So there are definitely ways to improve even if you're not in the game. Last thing I'll say is if you have a lower body injury, so a knee or an ankle or whatever, you can still be setting against the wall. You could even like sit on your butt and serve against the wall. You could sit on a chair and pass against the wall. There are a lot of things you can do if you just stop making excuses. So don't do anything that your doctor is not okay with. But if the doctor says, well, you can sit and watch TV, you can set against the wall doing really simple controlled stuff, do it. Like, it's not hurting anything, so do it. If the doctor says no, then don't do it. Always listen to your doctor, and you can find more episodes of The Dig at mylittleathlete.biz/The Dig. If you're watching on YouTube, I would love it if you would go ahead and subscribe. Then you'll know, even when it's not a podcast that's coming out, you'll know I have new videos up, and I appreciate all of you so much. So thank you very much. See you later.